Hi, I'm Renarta C, Moyd, the Chief Communications Officer of the Cumberland County Schools and your host of Get Connected. Now, during this monthly show, we highlight numerous educational topics that face today's student, educator, and parent in the Cumberland County Schools. Now, the school system is pleased to be the recipient of 2 successive grants from the Department of Defense Education Activity, or DoDEA, where each one totals $1.5 million. The 5-year grants provide social emotional support to military-dependent students in the system. Now, that's nearly 1/3 of our students. We'll learn more about these grants and how they positively impact those students on this edition of Get Connected.
And then from this angle, it all makes a star.
I'm a teacher. Let me tell you what I make. I make learning a privilege, not a chore.
Show up
And frustration,
absorb
a
what
tool,
people are giving you.
not an obstacle. I make working hard seem easy and giving up impossible.
And then we're gonna turn the lights and everybody look up.
I make an old subject feel like a fresh thought.
Find me one.
What's your reaction? Yeah, exactly.
And unconventional methods
Okay, what else?
common.
Little tadpoles, the frogs, the spiders, this is their world.
There's nothing.
And then they die. Go ahead, go, go, go.
I'm a teacher. I make more.
We appreciate you joining us for this edition of Get Connected. We're discussing 2 very special grants from the Department of Defense that are helping our students find normalcy as they cope with the unpredictability of military life. Now, with us to discuss the grant's inner workings and their basic impact is Rebecca Legan. Now, she serves as the project director for the grants. Rebecca Legan, welcome back.
Thank you for having me again.
You know, and I say welcome back because you were here with us about a year ago talking about the military child. So you're back with us this time talking about these wonderful grants. Exactly what are they?
Well, the grants are, we have 2 DoDEA grants, or Department of Defense of Education grants in Cumberland County Schools. These grants are federally funded grants that aim to increase student achievement and to ease the challenges that military-connected students face due to their parents' or guardians' military service.
Okay.
In Cumberland County, our grants focus on the social and emotional needs for our military-connected students. Like I said, there are numerous challenges that students face. One of the challenges might be that many military-connected students move 6 to 9 times before the age of 18.
Ooh.
So imagine as a child where you're trying to figure out who you are and who you should be, reinventing yourself, trying to fit in, trying to find friends, where to sit at the lunchroom. This can cause some disciplinary issues. This can cause some emotional stress. So with these grants, we're able to bring in some intervention strategies to help ease these types of transitions.
That's good. Now, the grants I believe I mentioned in the introduction are $1.5 million each.
They are $1.5 million each. We have 2 grants now. We were recipients, back-to-back recipients. So we were awarded one in 2015 and we were awarded one in 2016. And each of these grants are 5 years in length. So we will be within these schools for quite a number of years.
That's good. Now, you know what, can you remember the schools?
I had a feeling you were going to ask that question, so I did bring a cheat sheet with
The producer
me.
let you bring in a cheat
Yes,
sheet.
yes.
Okay, good.
Within our grants, we have 17 schools embedded. So that is great news, and we're trying to work to make sure all our middle and high schools are embedded. So we have 8 middle schools, we have 9 middle schools, and to go down the long list.
Okay, go right ahead, 'cause
our
I'm sure
8 middle
people wanna
schools
know.
our 8 high schools, are Pine Forest High School, Terry Sanford High School, E.E. Smith, 71st High School, Westover High School, Southview High School, Jack Britt High School, and Douglas Byrd High School. And then we have 9 middle schools currently, which are Pine Forest Middle School, Spring Lake Middle School, Max Abbott Middle School, Westover Middle School, Lewis Chapel Middle School, Southview Middle School, Hope Mills Middle School, Douglas Byrd Middle School, and Ireland Drive Middle School.
That's good. So you all are really covering some territory.
We
with these
are.
grants.
We are.
And I know we'll have some of the young people that work in your office to come with us a little later on in the show, or join me a little later on,
Yes.
to talk about how they're using the grant funds to really spread tentacles out there to help our young people.
Yes, and we have 4 MSTCs, which are military student transition consultants, embedded in our school district now. So you'll get to learn all about the great things that they're doing in our schools.
Now, you know, a question that one might ask is, why is the concentration on middle and high school students?
Well, with these grants, it afforded the district the opportunity to expand on some initiatives that are already put in place, such as the Character Edge program, the anti-bullying program to help reduce out-of-school suspensions and to bring professional development to school personnel. And even though these initiatives are in elementary schools, starting at the middle and high schools, this allowed us to reach more students in military-connected families at one time.
You know what, I'm kind of curious when you mentioned, because I just think my mind goes immediately to the monies being directed on the students. But you mentioned professional development, which would entail helping our faculty and staff. What types of professional development would they need?
Well, some of them you would think, being near Fort Bragg, that everybody knows about the military, and you'd be quite surprised that there's a lot of school personnel that they don't know the ins and out of a military life, or the life of a child of a military connected student. So we like to bring in professional development so they can understand, like I said before, the different transitions that they go through, or when a parent deploys. You know, a child may be nervous, you know, is that parent going to come home? Are they going to come home the same parent? So we bring those kind of professional developments and understanding what it's like to be a military child.
Now, I know you are a military spouse.
I am.
So firsthand, you get to really see exactly what the mindset of that military child is.
And I grew up military. My dad was in the Navy for 31 years, so
Wow.
He was deployed a lot. We stayed put because he didn't want us to constantly have to move. So I had that missing piece of a father. And then as I grew, was older and married a Army man, I jumped ship to the Army side. But
a different branch.
My husband has deployed numerous times, almost every year since 2003. We just made it a year and a half that he was home. But just now seeing my own children at such young ages, that the challenges that they face. And so these grants are extremely personal and important to me, because I can understand and I can relate to what these children and parents go through. So I'm glad that it's finally being realized that the social and emotional need for military children, there's a need out there.
Okay, that's good. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you for having me.
Next year, remember?
Absolutely, I'll be here.
All right, okay. Well, don't go anywhere. Hang around for more Get Connected.
Morning, Gary. We are GetSchooled.com. You want a college education, don't you?
You know you do. Yeah, but I don't know where to start.
That's why we're here. We're free, handsome,
I think we're breathtaking.
and here to guide you through every step of the way, starting with attendance. Gary, financial aid forms. Biology homework, G. I got this. Is that Bran? Colleges love extracurricular activities.
Chess really isn't my thing.
I got this. Doesn't matter. Go ahead. Picking a college, man. You and us. We go together like tacos and Tuesday.
And I love tacos.
Fire and ice.
Those don't really go together.
Go to GetSchooled.com for more info.
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of Get Connected. Now, during this next segment, we're talking with two of our 4 military student transition consultants who are working to advocate for our military-connected students through the use of one of the $1.5 million Department of Defense grants. A lot to get out there, but nonetheless, seated with me are Mark Patton and Tanisha Perkins. Welcome, Mark and Tanisha.
Thank you for having us.
I'm so glad you all are here. Now, I don't want to go back and say that military student transition consultant. I'm just going to call you a mystic. Can I do that?
That works.
Okay. Okay, so what exactly do you all do?
Well, we are special embedded counselors, consultants, primarily military background. Our job is to work with the military kids who are transitioning in and out, and our focus is social emotional well-being. And I'm in 4 schools. I'm at Jack Britt, and I'm at Hope Mills Middle, Westover Middle, and Southview High School.
Okay.
My 4 schools are Douglasburg High, Douglasburg Middle, 71st High School, and Ireland Drive Middle.
Okay. Now, where did the concept of, I want to say a mystic, where did the concept of this come from?
Well, we're part of the Military Child Education Coalition, and the president and founder of that organization, of that nonprofit, is Dr. Mary Keller. And she's a former superintendent in the Killeen ISD school district in Fort Hood, Texas. And she actually saw the transitional needs of the students who were dealing with deployments, with school moves, and she found that there was something missing, something that was needed for those students to effectively transition.
Okay. Now, I noticed that, and when I went on the website to just kind of peep you all out before you came, you all have some really deep backgrounds in military, in military life as a whole, much like Rebecca.
Right. I was raised military here at Fort Bragg, had some time in Germany. I was commissioned out of NC State, retired, and taught for 22 years, including junior ROTC.
Wow.
And retired and went to work for Military Child Education Coalition within a couple of days of that retirement, just as a passion working with kids. I wish this had been around when I was in the different stages of my military life.
Yeah, that's a real deep, I mean, you've really embedded.
I've, not just as a resource here for the Fayetteville area, but several different perspectives of the military background. I also was my wife deployed to Afghanistan, and I was the one left back to plan our wedding. So I've kind of been the student, been the dad, been the spouse, been the deployed spouse. So I have a pretty big picture on the military student and the ins and outs of what goes on in their life. Like Rebecca talked about, the 8 to 9 moves and being the new person in a school.
I'm sure that's hard, but we'll talk about that. Now, Tanisha, you...
I actually grew up in a very small town in South Carolina, attended elementary, middle, and high school with the same friends, married my college sweetheart, and moved to Fort Hood, Texas, where I started my second time teaching there. Totally different world, dealing with totally military-connected students, learning that they face issues that I had never experienced. And then as our family grew, we now have 3 military-connected students, dependents in Cumberland County. I can see how their educational needs and their social-emotional needs have changed as we've transitioned. When we moved to Fort Bragg, we realized that our youngest daughter at the time was 6, and she had lived in 5 homes.
Wow.
Yes. So my background is in education, and I've seen, how it affects students when their parents come and go. I've seen how it affects my students when their father comes and goes. I've had the pleasure of navigating about 6 school districts for my own children. So with my background being in education, I understand the process, but I know that there are a lot of parents who don't. So that's why I enjoy helping the military-connected kids in our district.
So you all are not only advocates, you all are also speakers, bureau chiefs. I mean, you're out there just trying to let people understand. Right. There's a lot to this.
Right. We've had several professional developments for different organizations. I have one coming up for local realtors board, letting them know that there's extra support out there for military students and families across a wide range of activities, being new and wanting to start a career. Tanisha said she was in education. We have some parents that come in and go, where do I start? My student settled in school, I'm the unsettled one. So we bring a lot of resources, not just for the student, though that's our primary focus, but for the families altogether.
Now, and that's what I was going to ask you. Why is there a need to have mystics in our school system?
Well, if you walk into any classroom, into any school building, you'll never hear a professional who cares about kids say, I have it all under control. I don't need any help. So we're an extra set of hands, ears, eyes to help, just to see what kids need, just a little more motivation or just to point it in the right direction to make it through the day.
That's good. Now, a typical day is?
Fast.
A typical day?
We work in the same building,
yes.
But I never see you guys. I mean, you're upstairs, I'm downstairs, but I still never see you all.
So one of the new hires asked, what's a typical day? And my answer was, there's no such thing as a typical day. Every day brings something new, whether it's a new student, an existing student with a struggle, a teacher that's gotten sick and they just need help at the school covering that class. And often you walk in and it's one or two of the students you've already met with, so that helps the class kind of settle down, even if you're just standing there and monitoring the class. And then between the hurricane and all the odd things that have gone on, you just walk in and every day is a different day. There's nothing you can expect. Oh, I have an appointment at 9.
Right.
I have an appointment at 10. It just doesn't happen that way.
Well, our program is structured so that we'll have a day on each of our campuses. Mark and I both have 4 campuses. So we plan to be on that campus specific days. But as a need arises, with 3 of my schools being on the same street, I'm able to flow through each of those campuses as necessary, and then again to 71st when the need arises.
That's good. Now, something we were talking about when we were getting suited up, you mentioned to me the 10-day welcome process. That's something you all get a new student. There's a critical point there. Share with our viewers what you were sharing with me.
Well, those 10 days are research-based, and it says that if a new student finds themselves and gets settled within the first 10 days, that they will be successful on the campus that they're at. So our goal is to basically make interaction with them and meet them in those first 10 days to make sure all their needs are met.
Wow.
And then in addition to the 10 days, within the first 20, we actually try to start touching on the behavioral, emotional, and see, are they settling in? Is there something they need? Each school has different programs that lets the military kids meet and greet with other military kids. As we meet them, we're able to use those as resources. I've had a little 6th grader coming from Germany and she was just lost. I'd had an 8th grader come in earlier in the semester, so I matched the 2 of them up. The principal let them go to lunch. And the 6th grader literally went from tears to having a good day, I think, the rest of that day. And I saw her the other day and she's like, I'm settling in. I said, well, that's good. That's what we want, is you to settle in and feel like you're a part of the school.
If you ask a military connected student what is the scariest part of their day, most of the times they'll say lunch. Because that's the first part of the day where they're completely on their own and they have to find a place to sit and somebody to eat with or something to talk about. So that's the most stressful part of their first day. And we have a program in this district called Student to Student, which is an MSEC initiative, Military Child Education Coalition initiative, as well as Junior Student to Student, which are in our high schools and our middle schools, which they play a large part in helping students to feel connected.
That's good. That is good. I think that's important. That is important. And I could see how, it would be stressful. You come in and, you go to classes, those are structured, but then when lunch comes, everybody probably feel as though everyone's just looking at you and you're trying to figure exactly where to sit.
And the worst part is feeling like nobody's looking at you because you become invisible.
Wow, because you don't know where you fit in.
Right.
Those types of things. And it's just so good to sit and hear this information, because anytime I encounter, having been a military child as well, and my husband was Air Guard, but having that particular type of connection and going out to post and using privileges and those types of things, I always look at military children as they're being very outgoing, extremely intelligent. And I guess being able to just kind of mesh in any way, any environment they're placed in. But
the word that's been used is they learn from moving, from family, whatever it is, they become resilient. But along with being resilient, there's things they learn to just adapt or cope with. And sometimes that causes stress. Imagine being a senior, young man I met last week, who just moved in his senior year at Christmas to Fayetteville, North Carolina from Germany. So, he has a wide range of not just social, emotional, but gosh, what am I going to do for college? Where am I? And he just sat and looked at me. I said, relax, whenever you're ready to talk, we can talk. I said, I get it. But that's where we go back to, we're that resource for them to say, okay, what are your options? Where do we go? And if we don't have a resource, then part of our job is to go out and do the research and find that resource.
That's good. Now, how do families find out about you?
Well, we actually have a website on the Cumberland County Schools District page that they can actually find out about us. We send home information. We have our brochures that each military connected student receives at our initial orientation, and we also mail those home as needed.
That's good.
And then every school, if there's an open house or parent-teacher conference night, we're set up. I just did one where I think I met 27 families in a little over 2 hours. Didn't know you were here. But part of that's learning a new role here in Cumberland County. And as they've gotten, I've probably got 25 emails. Hey, now that I know you're here, how can you help with? How can you help with? So we do an awful lot of large group presentations to the school body, and as that word spreads, and now that we have the other schools coming on board, it'll become a larger effort.
Do you find that families, mom or dad, reach out to you as far as finding out about community resources and those types of things in order to get information about community resources?
Absolutely. One of the things we find is a lot of parents will try and position themselves for a student to go to a certain school. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But then they hear about our choice school program, and well, my son or daughter wants to go to that one, but they may live out on the other side of Fort Bragg. I can't transport them all the way out there. So there becomes this larger conversation of how do we help you with that. And ideally, we'd like to do that ahead of time as they move in. Because the other half of what we do is when kids leave, we make sure they have what they need to leave and go to another base, and that they meet somebody and already have what they need to get registered and get started at that school.
Okay.
What we also find is that when students live or families live closer to the installation, they seek their answers on the installation.
Okay.
But when they live in the community, they seek their resources within the community. And so it helps that we're right there at the schools where they are.
That's good. That's good. Now, do students usually have to fill out any type of paperwork or follow any type of requirements as far as being involved in the program?
Right. Because we're part of a grant and we have the need to want to meet them within the first 10 days. There is a couple pieces of paper they fill out, basically parents saying they have permission, but then they also give us some basic hints about themselves. What's their favorite classes? What's their favorite sports? For instance, one of my first jobs as a young man moving in, technically after football season has started, but he wanted to have a tryout. And there was some issues to settle, and we kind of walked through how that would happen, and he got a separate 2-day tryout, and he made the team. So that's what we're hoping in the future is they have that information ahead of time as they come into Cumberland County.
Okay, that's good. Be prepared then. Okay. Now, are there mystics in other states across the country?
Most of the military student transition consultants are located at larger military installations.
Okay.
So we have MSTCs at Fort Hood, at Fort Polk, and
Mark's counting.
I know.
Jump in, Mark, if you miss one.
Falcon School District in Colorado, Fort Gordon, Georgia, is it? I think it's Georgia. And then we have one coming into Shreveport, Louisiana, I think, and then Virginia Beach area has had for a couple of years. I think that's all of them.
Okay, that's good. Do you all ever come together for any type of professional development?
Yes, we do. We train in Killeen annually at our home office in Harker Heights, right outside of Fort Hood, Texas.
Okay.
We also attend the National Training Conference in Washington, D.C.
That's good. So it's good to know that you all aren't just acting all willy-nilly.
Oh, no.
There's a method to the madness.
Right.
Right. Many of the times when we're working with students, if we have that common ground, that common information on resources, it just helps them relax that little bit more. So they know they've got someone who understands. For instance, the other day I had a young lady come in. I said, "Where did you move here from?" "Harker Heights, Texas." And I was like, "I was just there." She's like, "Really? You were at Harker Heights?" I said, "And that's where the Military Child Education Coalition is." And so we had just a nice conversation. Then she told me she's a figure skater. I was like, I'll have to do some research on figure skating.
Find some ice here.
I know we have hockey. I don't know about figure skating.
That's good. That's good. And I guess it takes a special talent as well. I guess with me having a preteen, well, she's not a preteen, a middle school student now, being able to relate and being able to build rapport Y'all must be some special folk.
Well, it helps to have a background in education. And if you're accustomed to being around students, they know. If you're comfortable, they know. If you're not, they figure that out pretty quickly too.
Well, and when I said yes to not just taking the job, but when I even applied, I just have always had a passion for kids. I look back, I didn't have a program like this. My children didn't have a program like this. And when I retired and we moved to North Carolina, they lost a year of AIG, certain things. Well, there's now the interstate compacts in place with the help of Military Child Education Coalition that protects our kids. And we're very fortunate in North Carolina because our commissioner's here in Fayetteville. So when issues come up, they convene. It's kind of a quasi-legal council that says, and all 50 states and territories have signed on to it. So it helps, it's a benefit of the kids.
That's good. That is so good. Now, I know that in your work, there's so many different things that you all, as you said, no 2 days are the same. What for you all have been the like mountain peak moments where you were like, yes, I can see this child is gonna make it?
Well, when you come in and you see a child who was kind of standoffish at first, and then you walk into that same building a couple weeks later and they're leading other students around.
Get out of here. Oh, I know that must feel good, that you've helped.
Yes.
That's good. Mark, have you had any?
And piggybacking on that, that not only that, the child's not only verbal and out there, willing to now be that ambassador and come to you and say, I really want to be on the S2S. I really want to start. It's as if they come out of a cocoon and now they're comfortable with themselves and their setting, and now they want to extend that and help the other kids that are coming in.
That's good. Now, if you find that there's a child, and I know we being cognizant of our time, but if you find that there's a child that's just really having difficulty meshing, what do you do then?
And we are a transition service, so we actually refer students to the places that they can get help as well. Okay. So we have strong relationships with our student services teams on each of our campuses, whether it's the social worker or the counselors, anybody who can help that student. So if we're interacting with a student who needs additional help, we make that friendly handoff to the counselor or social worker or whoever they need to speak with.
That's good.
And that may also be an access of something on base. There's several new programs that doesn't require them to have to go through WOMAC to be certain services, to see certain services. And then part of what we have participated in the last 2 months is several outside organizations such as the USO who are extending and creating an umbrella of network services that we can make a referral into, and that just helps the student and the family in a larger scheme.
All right. Well, Mark, Tanisha, any last words?
We are happy to be here. There's a need in the area, and we're happy to fill that need.
All right.
And every day's that much better when you see a child smile.
That's right.
Oh, I just want to cry. Thank you all for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thanks for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, on behalf of the Cumberland County School System, we want to thank you for tuning in to this edition of our show and for giving us a chance to help you get connected. Until next time.